Hey guys, how are you all doing? Welcome to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Naruto x female Kyuubi x Tsunade x Hinata, part 1. Subscribe if you enjoy the video. Let's start the story. A solitary figure lies on his back in what appears to be a decimated shoreline and a looming wall in the distance, his body mired in wounds, and the blood seeps into the sand. The figure was tall with broad shoulders, his black hair matted with sweat and sand, but his eyes opened, revealing a steel blue eye and a golden eye with black sclera. His face is handsome with a strong chin, straight slender nose and defined cheekbones. His arm was white as snow with a black tribal-like tattoo going up the arm, but in his hand was a sword broken in two, but he kept a firm grip. The figure manages a weak smile as he holds up his broken blade. "Looks like I'll break my promise," he says, reaching in his pocket, and a sigh of relief escapes his mouth, finding a cigarette pack. The figure pulls one out with his mouth and lit it. "Laying on this ground, I'm reminded of an old memory. Even if I was born in the Soul Society, I remember this old life, me as a hyperactive knucklehead with blonde hair and of all things whiskers, but not all happy. Just like here, I was hated and treated like nothing, but I made friends, but that changed and they betrayed me and killed me. Well, not all of them," he muses. An image fills his mind of a beautiful young woman with pearl eyes and long lavender hair. "Shit, to die alone sucks balls," he mutters, with a drag. "Not completely, Mitsuomi, you got me," a female voice said in his mind. Mitsuomi groans softly with a puff. "Sorry Zetsue, but we're on our last hooray. Maybe this time when I'm reborn I'll be someone, not treated like shit," he says to no one as his cigarette falls from his mouth. Mitsuomi slowly feels his life slipping away, but through his blurry eyes, sees a figure in a flowing cloak standing next to him with black hair peeking from their hood. "A sad life you have lived, drifting from battle to battle. Those you love are taken, hated for things not of your doing, Mitsuomi Kiryu, or rather Naruto Uzumaki," the figure said, their voice distorted but vaguely male. Mitsuomi manages a weak chuckle. "I haven't heard that name in so long, but how is this possible for me to have a previous life, but born in the Soul Society?" he asks. "Because despite your birth all souls have a previous life, but none remember it fully. However, you are different as you have been all your life, both of them," the man states and kneels to one knee. However, the legend of the number one hyperactive ninja was not meant to end at the age of 16, killed by his best friend for power. "Those you loved turned against you, however, two didn't despite the odds," he adds. A pair of images appeared in Mitsuomi's mind and a tear fell down his cheek, Granny muttering. The man places a hand on Mitsuomi's chest. "I come with an offer for you to return to life, but life in the elemental nations, however, not as Naruto, but as Mitsuomi," he states. Mitsuomi glances to his broken sword and then to the figure. "Who are you and why?" he asks. "My name is not relevant, and the reason is an atonement for your life ending at their hands. So what is your answer?" the man states. Mitsuomi touches the man's hand, and a burning sensation runs through his body. "A piece of advice and a warning: 3 years have passed since you died, Naruto. The first place you should go is to your friend in the sand," he states, and a glowing engulfs Mitsuomi's vision. "Unfortunately, you will cease to exist in the Soul Society, and your presence erased." The figure though. Scene break. Mitsuomi awakes with a start in a lush forest on the wet ground as the rain fell, and immediately the words to that man echo in his thoughts. "Friend in the sand, could he mean Gaara?" he mused and rubbed his forehead. "That could be it, but who was that man to have the power to bring you back?" Comments. However, Mitsuomi's breath hitches and his eyes widen. The Ray M could do what he thought, and gasps. Mitsuomi shook his thoughts away and noted his clothes were still tattered with black, buckle riding boots, gloves and cargo pants, but one leg was missing. Mitsuomi unsheathes his sword as it manifests behind him, her ruby and sapphire eyes staring and her red hair getting wet. "I don't hear him anymore," Mitsuomi notes, and she rubs her armored hand. "We merged. You still have all your hollow powers, but look at your left eye and arm," comments. Mitsuomi moves his blade to his C. His left eye still has his scar and holds a black sclera, but the iris was steel blue again. Mitsuomi gets to his feet, and his arm still holds the tribal lightning bolt going down to the wrist. At the wrist it splits into 4 black lines to his knuckles, but was his normal skin tone again. "Hey look boss, a lost soul," a burly voice says. Mitsuomi glances to see several unsavory men, but one stands out. He has a similar body shape to him, dressed in a sleeveless black jacket and a pair of military-like cargo pants. "A lost soul indeed, with an exquisite blade. Let us convince him to donate it to Kami," he says. Mitsuomi tightens his grip on with a sigh and unleashes his like kai, causing all of them to fall on their rear with fright-filled eyes. "You strip and give me all your money," Mitsuomi says, his eyes glowing brightly. The leader quickly strips off his clothes, and the other bandits give a pouch. "Hey, anything else, sir?" the leader says. Mitsuomi holds up the black shirt and sees it has a wing design on the back and wraps around the front. "Consider this your lucky day. Change your ways and I won't come find you and kill all of you," he says. All of the bandits drop to their knees. "We will," Demon Sama shout and run off. "Yufufu," Demon Sama jokes as Mitsuomi gets dressed, and thankfully both were the same size. Just great back for a few minutes and called a demon, Mitsuomi says, zipping up his boots and securing the pouch and to his waist. I guess it can't be helped. Gaara is in danger. I'll find him, Mitsuomi muses, as vanishes and he vanishes into. It didn't take Mitsuomi long to pick up Gaara's trail and lead him to a cliff with a river, however he saw a large red arch and large boulder. It may have seals but with no chakra. We can't comment. Mitsuomi scoffs with a smirk and clenches his left fist. We don't need chakra. We still have our Shinigami powers, he said, and leaps off the cliff with a spin, Akatsu shouts, shattering the rock with his fist. Music. Approach JoJo Stardust Crusaders. Inside, two figures were standing in shock, and several projections were equally shocked as the entrance exploded. Knock knock, a voice said, amid the dust cloud. Mitsuomi emerged from the dust cloud, rotating his arm, and got a look at the two figures. One was a blonde-haired man with one visible blue eye. The other was hunched closer to the ground with a large turtle-like body and an emotionless face, but both wore black cloaks with red clouds. I commend you, strangers, for breaking the barrier. Very few possess the power to do so, one of the projections states. Mitsuomi looks to the highest project of a man with ripple-patterned purple eyes. Well, aren't I lucky, he quips. Idara Sasori eliminates him and continues the extraction on the Ichibi, the man states, and projections cease. Mitsuomi sees Gaara inside a blue orb and his eyes narrow, but he turns his attention to his opponents. Release him now, he coldly says. Idara only grins and forms a bird made of clay. You can't have him, let's get him, my man, he states. However, Mitsuomi vanishes and severs the arm holding the clay, causing it to explode and killing Idara, but Sasori launches back. Mitsuomi appears above Sasori as he lands, but only meets wood, as the real Sasori landed a few feet away, a puppet, he thought. Sasori has red hair and a blank face with a symbol on his bare chest. You did me a favor by killing that idiot artist. True art is immortal, he said. However, as Sasori finishes, a blue lightning bolt strikes the symbol. How? How did you know, he mutters, before collapsing like a puppet devoid of strings. It was best to end it quickly before they got started. Now to save Gaara, Mitsuomi notes and turns to the multi-eyed statue. Ad number 63 Rake, Mitsuomi recites, firing a large electric yellow blast. The kid was enough to free Gaara as he caught him, but Mitsuomi saw it did little damage to the statue. Note to self, blow that fucking thing to hell later, he thought, looking for a pulse and found one. Mitsuomi lifts Gaara on his shoulder and shampoos to the cliff before slowly placing him down. Gaara starts to stir and he sees a man sitting next to him. Who are you? He coldly asks, summoning some sand. Well, easy, I'm the guy who saved you, but more importantly I was the guy to beat some sense into you. I even summoned a huge ass toad to do it, but it doesn't sway you, Mitsuomi says, and draws whiskers on his cheeks with some dirt. Gaara looked him over and a look of realization washes over him. Naruto, but you were executed by Sasuke Uchiha. I read the report, he said. Mitsuomi rubs the dirt off his cheeks. Well, I was reborn in a different place, lived, and died a warrior's death. Kami-sama asked me to return here as either Naruto or as Mitsuomi. I chose this because, well, I achieved more like this, he says, and Gaara places a hand on his shoulder. I see, but what would you do? Konoha is a cruel place now. The Hokage was imprisoned and overthrown. Martial law is in effect, and anyone entering is subject to a rigorous screening, even a cage like myself. However, you may be able to get in with your new look, and your chakra is low, Gaara explains. Mitsuomi softly pats Gaara on the shoulder, but both send several people approaching. Kazuki Uchiha, okay, when they get here tell them I'm a merc you hired. My name is Mitsuomi Kiryu, only to be activated if you were captured by someone. If they ask why, tell them you gave me some of your sand, he explains. Music ends. Scene break. From the tree line 5 people emerge and 3 raise his ire, Sakura, Sasuke and Kakashi. The other 2 are Temari and their teacher Baki. Mitsuomi. Sakura's pink hair was in a high ponytail, and she wears a white long-sleeve shirt under a red coat that stops at her knees but open in the front, black boots with fishnet shorts under a black skirt. Sasuke wears black pants with boots, a fishnet armor shirt under a long black coat, but half on, and the right sleeve tucked in his pants with a sword across his back. Kakashi still wears the same clothes Mitsuomi remembers, but he notices the almost glazed over look in his visible eye. Baki was the same as he remembered, while Temari grew quite pretty, dressed in a black battle kimono with a red obi with fishnet from the knee down into black shoes. Temari rushes to her brother. Gaara thanks Kami, she whispers, but sees Mitsuomi. Who are you? She asks, defensively. He is a mercenary I hired when I first became Kazuki, only to be used in dire situations. His name is Mitsuomi Kiryu, Gaara explains. Why the hell was he used? When you have someone like me, Sasuke remarks, and Gaara glares at them. Because someone like me doesn't hide behind status to get things done. Lord Kazuki hired me for a job, and I did it unlike some people, Mitsuomi interjects. Sakura clenches her fist. Don't talk about Sasuke-kun like that. He is a clan head, she shouts. Mitsuomi scoffs with a smirk. One guy doesn't make a clan, he remarks. Sasuke levels a deadly amount of killer intent as a light sneer forms. Watch what you say, Merc. The last that did died like a traitor. He tried to change the natural order of things, he states. Yeah, that monster got what he deserved, and what was the icing on the cake was our former Hokage giving him the news under Genjutsu. It was hilarious how she broke down when we locked her up and told her the truth about Sakura, interjects. Mitsuomi's brow creases as he tries to stop an angry scowl forming. I will see Kazuki-sama if you will allow me. I would like to visit Konoha to promote trade with my homeland, he said. What homeland, Mitsuomi-san? Kakashi finally states. Mitsuomi glances at Kakashi with a smirk. It is a land far beyond the northern elemental borders. As for trade. We trade in lives as human weapons. He starts and taps his thumb on his chest. I am such a weapon. If you like, I can go to your great nation to offer my services, Mitsuomi adds. Sasuke slowly gains a devious smirk as he looks over Mitsuomi, a human weapon, he states, and looks to Gaara. Do you have any reservations, he adds. No, his business is concluded with me for now. He may go wherever he wishes, Gaara says, and Sasuke smirks. But then you can come with us, Mitsuomi-san, Kakashi states. Mitsuomi curtly nods and turns to face Gaara with his left on his right shoulder. Until later, brother, he says. Gaara places his hand on Mitsuomi's right shoulder and to you he replies before they go their separate ways. Mitsuomi follows behind the others as the huge gates of Konoha come into view. Their journey took 2 days and he was bombarded about everything, but he kept up the facade to fool them. Mitsuomi learns much in the 2 days, and one thing he deduces is that Kakashi was being used with Genjutsu. The other was that several of his old friends were gone, having died after the mission to save a certain person. This infuriated him that good people lost their lives for the man walking smugly in front of him. The group soon stopped at the gate. Welcome back, Team 7, and you have a guest. His affiliation, one asks. Mitsuomi slicks back on of his bangs. I am a traveling mercenary, and I was invited by Uchiha-sama, he placates. Sasuke smirks as Sakura beams at him. He is a tool for us. Let him in, he states, and the two nod. The group entered and were met by 3 elderly people. Uchiha-sama, welcome back, one states, with a cane and part of his face covered by bandages. Danzo have a new tool for us to use. A human weapon from the far north defeated Sasori of the Red Sand and Deidara the Mad Bomber of the Akatsuki, Sasuke remarks. Danzo and the 2 others were shocked, but the old warhawk remained calm. I see, then he will be useful, he says. Excuse Uchiha-sama, if I can, I would like to tour your village to take in your wonderful sights before we talk shop, Mitsuomi interjects. Sasuke turns to him with a slight glare, but Danzo raises his hand. That should be fine, Uchiha-sama. We'll have Anbu watch him, Danzo states. Sasuke waves his hand dismissively and Mitsuomi fakes a bow before excusing himself. Danzo watches him leave and turns to Sasuke. I do not trust him. We must be wary of him, he remarks. If he is not worth his salt, have him killed outside the village. No one will miss him, and the sand will not oppose us, Sasuke states. Mitsuomi's first place of visit was the memorial stone, and he found several names etched there. Shikamaru Choji Nichi Kiba. I will avenge your deaths. I know in my heart he took your lives for supporting me, he thought, running his fingers along the stone. Mitsuomi stayed for several more minutes, but left to avoid suspicion from his shadows, heading through the streets, and saw people with beaten looks, but he couldn't care less. He searches for Ichiraku Ramen, but only finds a destroyed building. Are you serious? Mitsuomi thought, continuing through the village. They hate anything that holds value to you, comments. Mitsuomi looked over some other sites in town and purchased a white, sleeveless and hooded jacket, but his most notable place to visit was the Hokage monument. Mitsuomi takes a slow drag with a sigh. Dad, you must be spinning in your grave. I owe Ray for telling me the truth, he muses, sitting on Yondame's stone head. Kakashi suddenly drops down behind him. Kiryu-san, the council requests your presence, he states. Mitsuomi slowly stood with a pop of his joints. Alright, led the way, he states. The Konoha council room. Kakashi led him to the Hokage tower, but it was ruled by the council and Sasuke. You can go in the states, as they stop at a door. The door opens as Mitsuomi steps inside and sees the council, including the parents of his deceased friends and Sasuke. Welcome, Uchiha-sama has informed us you are a human weapon, but your chakra levels are barely above a civilian, one states. Yes, that is true, my chakra is indeed useless, however I possess a power similar but vastly different. Many years ago my creator, a name lost to history, sought to make the perfect weapon after witnessing the power of the tailed beasts, the sort of power that could shape continents. Now the tailed beasts needed a host to wield this power, which created the Jinchuriki, but he wanted power beyond that, so through rigorous research he discovered an energy. This power was comparable to the tailed beasts. This power could kill with its sheer force. He named this power Ryatsu, Mitsuomi explains. The council members murmur amongst themselves. So you possess this Ryatsu, another asks. Mitsuomi slowly nods and raises his power enough for them to feel the force, and some of the civilians pass out. Yes, and after this discovery he sought to harness it. After many more years he found those symptoms, and they learned to channel it to produce weapons like myself, he continues. Unlike the tailed beast hosts is channeled through this weapon at my side, my creator used forbidden jutsu to forge a container of sorts in the form of this weapon, using a portion of the user's very soul, and once released their true power is revealed. Mitsuomi finishes. Sasuke silently stares at Mitsuomi, but Danzo rises. Are there more like you? But this power none of the other nations could stop us, he states, and others murmur in approval. Sadly no, I am the only one of my 25 siblings. I alone survived to adulthood, and my creator was killed by one of them, and with it was his work, Mitsuomi said, and they murmured. What about that left eye of yours? Is it some bloodline limit like the Byakugan or Sharingan? Sasuke comments. Mitsuomi touches his face, a mutation of his work. He called it a pale imitation of the Sharingan, and it only gives me an exotic look, he explains. Sasuke scoffs as Danzo approaches Mitsuomi. I speak for the council. We would like to use your services, he states. Mitsuomi smirks internally and places his hand on his chest. I do appreciate your offer, but will you allow me time to think about this, he says, and the die was cast. Will that suffice everyone? And Uchiha-sama, Danzo said, and Sasuke waves his hand. Take all the time you need. You are but a weapon to be used, Sasuke replies. Mitsuomi excuses himself but doesn't notice the smirk on his face, and here we go, he thought. Mitsuomi left the tower and started to wander, but he knew his shadows were following him again. Man, it would have been so fucking easy to deport them all to hell, he thought. Mitsuomi returns to the Fourth's monument to better find those he needed to save. His shadows thought he was meditating, but it was a cleverly created clone. The real Mitsuomi was moving through the village towards a certain compound in the high-end area, and thanks to his time as member of the Onmitsukan, no one with that all-seeing eye spotted him leaping over the gates. Hyuga compound. One Hinata hiked and kneels before a shrine built for the one she loves and lost. Naruto-kun, I miss you so much, she whispers. Hinata said another prayer and rose to her feet, only to come face to face with a hooded man. Hinata was about to scream, but the man placed a finger on her rosy lips. SHH, I am a friend Haim, he whispers. Hinata silently gasps hearing that name but slowly reaches for his hood. Who are you, she asks, but he pulls her hands to his cheeks. Hinata felt her cheeks heat up just by touching his own, and tears started to form. Please tell me who you are, she whispers, finally pulling the hood down. Mitsuomi looks into those pearl orbs and starts to betray him. You know who I am. Despite this face you watched me draw my last breath with a smile on my face. Hinata's breath hitches and she nearly faints. Why you can't be I, it's not possible. Kami-sama isn't cruel enough. Naruto-kun, she asks. Mitsuomi buries her face in his chest. Yes, I came back to you, but it's Mitsuomi Kiryu now, he says, feeling her tears on his shirt. Hinata slowly pulls away and looks up into his steel blue orbs. Naruto-kun, how is this real? This must be a cruel trick, I must be dreaming, she whispers. However, he lifts her chin. Then I'll show you I'm real, Mitsuomi says, planting his lips on her own. Her pearl eyes widened, but Hinata gave into the kiss. It just can't, but I want to believe, she thought. Flashback. Hinata quietly headed to the cell that contained Naruto, but saw Sakura leaving the cell. Why do you keep coming here, Hinata? He's being executed tomorrow. The fucking demon tried to kill Sasuke-kun, she states. Hinata avoids Sakura's gaze as she walks past her. Sasuke tried to kill him, or didn't you see his injury, she said, but Sakura turned her and got in her face. Say another word and you'll join him, Sakura hisses and brushes past as she enters the cell. Naruto-kun, Hinata says but gets a soft groan. Naruto was chained to the ceiling, his blonde hair matted with blood and his body covered in wounds as well as seals. Is that you? Naruto whispers and looks up to see her. Hinata closes the gap to touch his cheek. Sakura must have told you, huh? Naruto whispers. Hinata pulled a cloth from her pocket to wipe his face, but he saw the look on her face. Don't be sad, okay, keep strong for me, he whispers, his voice faltering. Hinata wiped away a tear. I don't know if I can. How can I watch the one I love go to his death? She says but gasps as Naruto stares with tears in his eyes. You love me, but why? Naruto asks but cups his cheek. I've loved you for a long time. You taught me to be strong and it breaks my heart to see you like this. I wish I could do more, she states. Naruto softly smiles and leans into her hand. You have Hinata. Knowing someone really loves me is enough to keep me strong, he says. The next day Hinata was among the villagers as Naruto was bound arms apart and Sasuke preparing his Chidori. Kami-sama, please watch him in the afterlife, she prays and sees the Chidori pierces his chest, but also sees the smile on his face. Then flashback. Hinata shook away her thoughts and still was in the embrace of Mitsuomi. I thought I lost you there. I didn't know a kiss could, she say, rubbing his nose. Hinata softly blushes and wipes her remaining tears away. Mitsuomi-kun, how are you alive? She asks. Mitsuomi looks around and looks her in the eye. I can't explain right now, but if you can come to the Forest of Death Gate tomorrow at 10 and make sure you're not followed, he says. Mitsuomi kisses her forehead and vanishes, leaving Hinata happier than she has ever been. Hinata headed inside for a shower and then to her room. Naruto-kun, she thought, reaching for a fox plushie under her bed. Scene break. Mitsuomi returns to Yandame's head and takes the place of his clone as Danzo approaches with a bundle and is flanked by two Anbu. Mitsuomi stood up with a pop and bowed to him. The view here was perfect for Jinzen or meditation as you call it, he states. Have you decided on the council's offer? Danzo said, handing him the items. The two bodyguards looked slightly shocked but dismissed it when they looked Mitsuomi in the eye. Yes, I will give you my answer at noon tomorrow, he says and bows before vanishing. Danzo and his guards return to the headquarters, unaware they had given Mitsuomi the keys to the proverbial cookie jar. Mitsuomi lands on the roof of the old apartment he had as Naruto and finds it fixed up and brand new, really eye to eye, and people miraculously move back and he muses, however finding him condemned and with not enough money he had no choice. Mitsuomi pushes open the door with little force and is met by dust with spiders and webs. I'd rather piss glass, he notes and closes the door. Hinata would lose her mind if I asked to crash at her place, Mitsuomi thought. Mitsuomi stops in his tracks and snaps his fingers before vanishing and losing his shadows to reappear on the wall of a compound. My dad's been dead for nearly 20 years and it looks brand new, Mitsuomi muses, jumping down. Mitsuomi crosses the grounds in silence and reaches the door but opted for the storehouse. Let's be ninja, quiet comments as he breaks the lock. The was dimly lit but the moon shines in enough. Slipping off his sword, Mitsuomi takes a seat and opens the bundle. Inside were numerous files that included where was being held but not, including the list of jobs the council may ask him to do. Zetsue manifests across from him, so what's the plan? Will you accept their offer? My plan was to save Tsunade and Shizune then restore her to power as Hokage, make Hinata my Hime, but that changed. I've decided to reform the Rokugage with them as members and return Tsunade to power, so for a few days, I'll be a good little soldier, he explains. Zetsue smirks softly and looks over the jobs. I highly doubt Konoha has many allies. Suna only through force, Iwa hates them. Kuma wants only power, Kiri may help, but I doubt it, she comments. Mitsuomi looks over the prison blueprint. It will be easy to get in. I don't have chakra and most traps work on that principle, and getting out with two people may be a bit tricky but not problematic, he says and slams his fist into his palm. Gosh, tomorrow I will go see Hinata. I'll accept their offer. I circled and then we rescued Tsunade and Shizune. Then kicked it to wave, Mitsuomi adds. Zetsue nods and dispels as Mitsuomi packs the bundle, then goes to sleep. Flashback, Naruto Sasuke bellows through the Valley of End as the pair channel their strongest attacks in a thunderous explosion. Naruto woke with a start in a cell chained to the ceiling, awake Hademe, a voice sneers. Naruto looks up to see Sasuke flanked by Sakura, Kakashi and, what is this, he mutters out. Sakura closes the gap with a hard right to his face. You tried killing Sasuke-kun, she hisses. Naruto balks at her tone. I had to fight him. He wanted to leave with Orochimaru, he says, but Sakura punches him again. Sakura enough, he must live to fulfill his duty, Kakashi comments. What duty? Naruto shouts, but Sasuke grabs him by the hair. Well done, you're going to help me obtain ultimate power. With your death I'll attain the Mangekyou Sharingan, Sasuke sneers. Tsunade steps forward and Naruto sees an almost glazed over look in her eyes. Naruto Uzumaki, by order of the Konoha Council and signed by myself. You are deemed a traitor to the Leaf and will be executed by Sasuke Uchiha in 2 weeks, she declares. The four left and Naruto hung his head and endured the torture that came. The day of the execution was a banner affair for the village to see the demon finally destroyed. Naruto was bound with his chest out as Sasuke stood before him. Time to die, Dobe sneered and charged his Chidori. The villagers cheer as the lightning strikes his chest, but Naruto grins as Sasuke sees no changes to his eyes. Is that all you can do? I expected more, I'm hurt. Then flashback, Mitsuomi bolts up with a start and a ragged sigh escapes his lips. Don't worry little Sasuke, I'll pay you back in spades, he thought. Mitsuomi grabs his coat and his sword to head to the bathhouse and clean up, but realizes he has no more money. However, the old woman that owned it felt sorry for him, or rather made him strip to ogle him, allowing him to bathe for free. Mitsuomi sighed constantly in the steaming bath but felt numerous eyes watching. Now I know how zoo animals feel, he thought. Mitsuomi quickly finishes and leaves in a hurry, but the owner manages to smack his butt as he leaves and blows kisses. Mitsuomi headed to the square for the time, and it was 10 minutes to 10, and he quickly headed for the Forest of Death. Meanwhile, Hinata was nearing the gate to the Forest of Death, but she was being followed and she couldn't shake them. Hinata reached the gate, but a wave of wind and dust rolled in, then someone lifted her up and leapt over the gate. Mitsuomi-kun, Hinata sputters and Mitsuomi grins. Sorry I was late, Mitsuomi states as they land on a huge tree. Mitsuomi lets Hinata down and they sit on a large branch. Won't my clan follow me in and find us, she asks. Mitsuomi pulls down his hood. Nope, I erected a special barrier called Rikmshmiki or Dragon King Barrier. It cuts us off from the outside world. I used it last night to see you, but sighs softly and looks at the trees. When Sasuke killed me I was reborn in a place called the Soul Society. I guess it's like heaven. I was born Mitsuomi Kiryu. But nothing changed. I was treated like this. But I found people to care for me like Am-chan and her dad. In fact they were exactly like them. But as I grew up I started to remember everything but ignored it. As I got older I became a Shinigami. I made the world notice me and it paid off. I became a captain of the GOTEI-13. It's the military of the Soul Society. And they help people cross over and lose souls who became hollows, Mitsuomi explains. Hollows? Hinata asks and Mitsuomi scratches his ear. Hollows are creatures that were once people but lost something and couldn't pass over. However, I had a hollow too, but he and I saw eye to eye, which made me stronger than others like me with hollow powers, Mitsuomi said. Hinata grasps his hand Mitsuomi and pulls her hand to his cheek. Listen, I know 3 years have passed since I died, but to me it was 300 years ago. It seems time passes differently, he says. Hinata gasps and her eyes widen, but how were we able to come back like this, she asks. I was dying after a tough battle. I gave everything I had to win. Kami-sama gave me a choice, and I chose to come here to save you, Shizune and Tsunade. He showed me everything including my parents Kushina Uzumaki and Minato Namikaze, the Yondaime Hokage, Mitsuomi states. Hinata's eyes widened at Mitsuomi's lineage, the Yondaime, but why was something like that hidden, she whispers. Mitsuomi kicks his legs on the branch. I think Gramps feared for my safety, but unintentionally caused me to be the village outcast, he said. Hinata slowly nods but goes back to the other statement. You're here to save Tsunade-sama and Shizune-sama, she says, and he nods. Yes, but I need to play and act first. The council wants me as a human weapon because of my Shinigami powers. I spun a convincing story to them. I will do one job for them, then we will save them, and all 4 of us are leaving Konoha, Mitsuomi says, and Hinata hugs him. Alright, now this is the most important. Be prepared to leave at dawn 1 week from now. Only the essentials. I'll come and get you and then we get them, Mitsuomi says, and she mumbles in his chest. Mitsuomi picks up again and heads for the gate, before sharing another kiss and her vanishing with a swirl of leaves. Mitsuomi shampoos to his father's head and looks over the city. I will bring this nation to its knees, and the will of fire will return. Too long have you spit in the faces of these men and women. I swear on my honor, as both Mitsuomi Kiryu and Naruto Uzumaki, I will correct the mistakes brought on by your arrogance, Dadabeo. He thought and opted not to say aloud, to blow his cover. Council room. Sasuke and the council waited as the clock slowly reached 12, and when it clicked 12 Mitsuomi opened the door. Danzo stood at the foreground with a file. Have you come to a decision? He asked. Mitsuomi dropped to one knee with a nod. I accept. You may use me however you wish, he states. The council murmurs and Sasuke rises from his seat as Danzo hands Mitsuomi the file. You are to find Orochimaru and kill him. Bring back his sword or his head as proof. The file contains his location. That fool has gone out of his way to try and get me. I have no need for a fool like him, Sasuke states. Mitsuomi pulls up his hood and slips the file in his coat. On your order, then. One dead snake coming up, he states, and vanishes in a swirl of wind. The council was stunned, but Sasuke only scoffs as he leaves. A theatrical one, he thought. However, the real Mitsuomi was halfway to the target location when he felt the clone dissipate. Mitsuomi landed on a tree with a smirk. Now the game begins, he thought, and continued on. Mitsuomi reaches the border of Odo after a day and a half. Even with all those eyes, he stole Danzo as a good little tool. Ha, quips. Mitsuomi lit a cigarette with a grin. Yep, the file he gave was the real one. But none suspect. I chose this job from the copy the day before, and no one is the wiser. But it's foolish to think he's here in his main base in Atagakur. Being this place was a hotbed 3 years ago, after his failed invasion, Mitsuomi adds, dropping to the road. Perhaps to stay under their noses, comments. Mitsuomi heads towards the gate and saw the town had seen better days, not looking like a ninja village, but more like den of bandits. Mitsuomi stops in his tracks as several bandits get in his path and from behind, you like you got money. Hand it over and we'll live long enough for Orochimaru-sama to play doctor, one says. However, Mitsuomi starts to laugh and reaches for his sword. Looks like I was right to the Croods. Meanwhile, in a base located within the mountain overlooking Atagakur, a certain Snake Sanin was reading a very interesting report. Orochimaru titters as he places the report on the table. Kukuku, is this true, Kabuto? Most interesting, he purrs. The white-haired Kabuto adjusts his glasses. Yes, Lord Orochimaru, from what we can gather, this Mitsuomi Kiryu killed both Sasori of the Red Sand and Deidara, our spy in the council chamber before he died. Sent us word that he wields strange powers that even surpasses the Uchiha, he notes. An evil smile forms on his lips as Orochimaru rises. Kabuto, have a team ready to find this Mitsuomi and bring him into the fold before the Leaf or any other nation can sink their hooks into him. Then later I'll make his body my own, Kukuku, he says, and Kabuto bows. However, a crushing force forces them both to their knees. Explosions and screams soon filled the air as this fierce force drew closer, making even the air thicker. The door opposite them started to buckle, and the pressure ceased as the door fell off its hinges with a thud. Knock knock, who's there? A snake past tense ha 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 voice chuckles. Orochimaru and Kabuto make it to their feet as the man just on their mind strolls in, Mitsuomi Kiryu. Orochimaru hisses out. Mitsuomi smirks at the snake, glances to his partner on Mitsuomi's left, and Kabuto molds chakra in his left hand. Mitsuomi's left eye flashed for a split second, and Kabuto froze, before putting his fingers to his chest and dug them in. What are you doing to me? Kabuto sputters out, digging his fingers further onto his chest and blood trickling out his mouth. Orochimaru remains stuck in his spot looking for an opening, but Mitsuomi clicks his tongue. Your toy is about to die and you're trying to attack me. Now I see why Sasuke-chan wants you. Dead, Mitsuomi says, as Kabuto crushes his heart. The white hair ninja drops to his knees with a confused expression etched on his face and his hands stuck in chest. Orochimaru clenched his fists but took a deep breath to regain his composure. Wow, you are good, this will be fun to get a crack at one of the legendary Sannin, Mitsuomi says and licks his thumbs, then pounds his fists together. Music. Orochimaru fighting theme extended. Orochimaru lets his long tongue escape his mouth with a hiss and bite his thumb. Kuchiyus no jutsu, he shouts, slamming his palm into the floor. A large billow of smoke filled the room and Mitsuomi braces as something pushes him out and through several walls to the outside, and he got a look at the force. A large purple snake with black rings running down intervals on his body and Orochimaru on its head had sent him outside. Mitsuomi focuses his and skids to a halt in midair. Kukuku, you're even capable of levitation. My soon-to-be new body has many secrets, Orochimaru states. Mitsuomi softly titters as he draws his sword. Last time I saw you, big fella, I saw the boss toad rip you a new one, he says, resting the blade on his shoulder. Manda leans forward. The only boss toad I know, Gamabunta, and I've never seen you before, but you smell familiar, he hisses, but leans back with a massive hiss. Mitsuomi kicks back as the snake launched forward, and Orochimaru wasn't being idle. Ton. Totapa shouts. A severe gust of wind whips forward, but Mitsuomi swings forward, blocking himself but uproots the forest around them. Pain. Men no, Orochimaru howls, now sending a wide-range fireball, but Mitsuomi vanishes and Orochimaru switches with a mud clone as Mitsuomi cleaves him in half. Mitsuomi lands on Manda, and the snake shifts to spew a copious amount of stomach acid, but the Shinigami captain launches skyward. Orochimaru sunshine behind Mitsuomi as two snakes coil around him, trying to crush life from him, but Mitsuomi smirks as he vanishes, leaving just his coat and slams a weighted kick to Orochimaru's face. Manda charges from behind and Mitsuomi shifts with his left hand pointed at the snake, sprinkled on the bones of the beast. Sharp tower red crystal steel ring move and become the wind stop and become calm. The sound of warring spears fills the empty castle. Had number 63 Reikim heroes, engulfing Manda in a golden blast. The golden blast detonates like a firestorm, destroying a large section of the forest, and as the flames die down, only a charred husk of Manda remains. However, a rumble engulfed the area as Manda erupted under Mitsuomi. Fuck, he managed to shed his skin, he thought, as Manda swallows him. Orochimaru watches from the distance. Good Manda, he sneers. Mitsuomi digs his sword into Manda's tough inner skin to stop himself. Shit, he thought, but a smirk forms. Mitsuomi focused his and black with purple energy formed in his free right hand. Had number 90 Kurohitsugi, he recites, as a black box forms. Manda hisses in agony as blood sprays from a box-sized wound in his side. Mitsuomi launches out the hole as Manda slams into the ground and disappears in a huge puff of smoke. Music ends. Scene break. Mitsuomi pulls his sheath from his belt and jams it in the ground as Orochimaru approaches. I will need a serious bath after this, he thought, strolling forward. Orochimaru maintains a straight face as the pair stood in a veritable wasteland. Ready to go again, Orochimaru, or are you all show and no go just like in the forest of death, Mitsuomi says, tilting his head and resting his sword on his shoulder. Orochimaru arches an eyebrow with a stare. That is twice this boy has mentioned things in the past, but I've never seen him and those jutsu were like nothing I've seen, he thought and grins. Oh yes, your body will do nicely, Orochimaru croons. Mitsuomi grins softly and digs his boot in the dirt. You sure you want this body? This body is gonna kill you soon for that little girl, he states. Orochimaru drops nearly flat like a snake as Mitsuomi raises his sword. Now your open eyes, because you'll be the first to witness this here, he states and shatters the ground. Music. Senna Bleach Ost. Awaken Zetsue, Mitsuomi declares. Orochimaru's eyes narrow, but his breath hitches as a gale erupts around Mitsuomi, including purple with black tinted aura. A strange black with red tint sword soon replaces his katana. If you're confused, call this sword Claymore, Mitsuomi shouts. Orochimaru opens his mouth wide and spews thousands of snakes, but suddenly all of them spew swords from their mouths. Mitsuomi remains firm and grips his sword tight. Flame Earth Dragon Dance, he shouts, driving his sword in the ground. Molten earth and spikes erupt from the ground in thunderous fashion, obliterating the snakes, and sends a plume of dirt 15 feet high. Another strange jutsu. It combines Kaiten and Doten styles. I want him to show me more Orochimaru thoughts and regurgitate his sword of Kusanagi. Mitsuomi sprints from the dust cloud with unheard of speed to meet Orochimaru's sword-like clap of thunder. Kukuku, your weapon is indeed powerful enough to stand against my Kusanagi, Orochimaru says, but gasps as a crack forms on the blade. The moment of distraction gives Mitsuomi enough time to create a gap and slice Orochimaru in half. Orochimaru floats upward as his lower half staggers back, but snakes shoot from both ends, reattaching the body as Mitsuomi moves back. Kukuku, you truly are a marvel to think a creation such as yourself exists, Orochimaru states. Mitsuomi slicks back his hair with a smirk. That is true, so as a token of respect to a legend, I'll end this with one of my strongest attacks, he says, as he swipes his face. Orochimaru immediately backpedals nearly 20 feet as energy forms on Mitsuomi's face and coalesces into a faceless white mask with just glowing gold irises, a purple lightning mark and small holes at the bottom. What is this dense and foul energy? It's as if a tailed beast stands before me, he thought. Mitsuomi runs his sword along his left palm and points the hand as it bleeds. Purple energy starts to form like a vacuum, but as the blood mixes, causes it to turn bright blue and swells in size as it loses shape. Orochimaru quickly bites his thumbs as Mitsuomi keeps firm. Grand Ray Zero, he shouts. The blast erupts and moves like a razor towards Orochimaru as he slams his palms into the dirt. Kuchius. Triple Rashomon, he shouts. 3 massive demon face gates erupt from the ground as the Zero charges, but it erases both them and Orochimaru in a thunderous explosion. A fitting first test of my powers in this world, Mitsuomi muses and removes his hollow mask. Mitsuomi launches towards the crater as smoke clears to reveal Orochimaru with both legs and an arm missing. Those did their job if he's that intact, he thought, landing. However, Orochimaru opens his mouth and his Kusanagi pierces Mitsuomi square in the chest. Kukuku, it seems I must take your body sooner rather than later, he hisses. Mitsuomi grimaces with wide eyes, but a smirk forms. You think so, he sputters. Back at number 61, Rikijimplum, a voice shouts behind. Orochimaru jerks and sees Mitsuomi as 6 yellow lights pierce him at the waist. Back at number 63, Sajim Sabaku, he adds, as yellow chains wrap around him. Oh, how I stabbed you, Orochimaru hisses, but saw the Mitsuomi before him turn to sand. One of my many new talents, but similar to my old trick, the cage bunshin, he states. Orochimaru tries to free himself but can't move. Who are you really? Not some weapon I suspected from your comments, he shouts. Mitsuomi plants his sword in the dirt and stalks closer. First you tried to mess my seal, then you tried to get Gaara to destroy the leaf, worst of all you killed Gramps, however you set in motion the events that led to my execution. He states. Orochimaru shows his shock with a shake of his head. Naruto Uzumaki. He starts, but Mitsuomi erases everything below his neck with another, but purple Zero. The head fell to the dirt as Mitsuomi drives his sword into it to make sure the snake was really dead. You realized it too, fucking lady says, smirking. Music ends. Scene break. Mitsuomi lifts his sword with Orochimaru's head still attached as manifests to retrieve his sheath. That was a fitting warm-up and a good gauge. I'm still as strong as when I was fighting Sachiro. Maybe more now that I'm healed, he thought. Zetsue returns and the pair head back to base, but she makes a face. You smell terrible. I hope you left a shower in there, she quips. Zetsue looks for a shower room, and Mitsuomi heads back to his initial attack to find Kabuto's body still there, then drags it with him to another room. Mitsuomi finds the armory and places Orochimaru's head on a table, and then slices off Kabuto's head to place it next to each other. I found a room to shower. I'll watch, the head states, and he hands her the sword. Mitsuomi pulls off his shirt in the hall, revealing his battle scars as he nears the room. Zetsue had even found him some new clothes, consisting of black cargo pants, a long-sleeve fishnet armor shirt and a sleeveless form-fitting shirt. Mitsuomi sighs constantly as the hot water washes over his skin, and so the games begin, he muses. On Hagakure, Hinata heads towards the main gates of Konoha with her teammates Shino Aburam, Ino Yamanaka and their sensei Kurenaiki, after returning from a mission. Ino wears fishnet armor under a purple coat that connects at the chest, leaving her midriff open, a purple skirt with knee-length boots. Shino has most of his body covered by bulky clothes and glasses over his eyes. Kurenai wears a red mesh armor blouse with only the right sleeve visible and a very broad material which resembles bandages, including a pattern on it similar to those of rose thorns, with her hands and upper thighs are also wrapped in bandages. Hinata herself wears blue cargo pants with ninja sandals, a chiknin vest over a fishnet armor shirt and an unzipped dark blue coat with white sleeves and a yin-yang symbol on the back. The team reaches the gate and spies someone talking to the gate guardians, but knows exactly who it was. Mitsuomi-kun thought. Mitsuomi places his bag on the ground. Okay my good fellows, you may contact the council and tell them my job was a success and I come bearing gifts he states. The two guardians saw the team and acknowledged them. Welcome back teammate, your mission was a success as one named asks. Ino puffs out her chest with a smirk. Of course once those fools knew we were leafnin, they ran like cowards she boasts. Mitsuomi and Hinata wanted to shake their heads, but he caught Kurenai looking at him. Who are you sir? She asks, sizing him up. Mitsuomi clicked his boots with a bow. Hajimemashide, I am Mitsuomi Kiryu, and I was commissioned by Uchiha-sama and the council for an S-class job, he says. I see I am Kurenai Iki. This is Ino Yamanaka Shino Aburam and Hinata Haika states. Mitsuomi nods and he does the same, about Ino, but he takes by the hand and kisses her knuckle. Hey how come she gets a kiss and I get a bow, Ino shouts. Mitsuomi rubs his chin. Well I just felt this need to do so, he says. Kiryu, the council is expecting you at the Hokage Tower, Katetsu states. Mitsuomi slips his bag on his shoulder. Ms. Iki, would it be a big trouble for Ms. Haika to escort me to the tower? I still don't really know my way around, he asks. Kurenai looks towards Hinata and then to him. It will be fine, she says, and the pair bow, excusing themselves. Ino clucks her tongue with a huff. Why does that demon lover get to escort that guy, she says and glances her way. I heard he was some human weapon from the north that the council is using. I also heard he killed two S-class missing nin states. Ino gasps with wide eyes and even was visibly shocked. Fuck him, Sasuke-kun is still cooler, she thought. Scene break. Hinata did her best to stop the blush on her cheeks as Mitsuomi was on her right side. Are still ready for tomorrow, he says, in a hushed tone. Hinata carefully nods as they turn up a street to the tower. Yes, I will be training at Field 20. No one disturbs me there, she replies. Kakashi stood at the door as the pair approached. Hinata, why are you with him? He asks. My apologies, but I asked Ms. Haika brought me here so I wouldn't get lost. She and her team were at the gates of Mitsuomi states, bowing and nodding. Unbeknownst to two of the three, Sasuke and Danzo were peering down. He has returned in just 2 weeks, but according to our hunter teams, it would take a month back and forth to check both places. Truly a frightening weapon we've acquired. It's a shame he is but one man, just imagine a whole team, Danzo remarks. Sasuke watches with a calculating eye. This, as he calls it, should be no different than a bloodline limit. We'll have him breed for stock, he says, and both head for the council chamber. Mitsuomi bows deeply to Hinata. I bid you good day and thank you for the escort, he says, and she bows as well. It was nice meeting Kiryu-san, Hinata states and sunshine away. Mitsuomi shifts his bag and follows Kakashi to the meeting hall. Not long now home and you too, Kakashi, he thought, staring at the masked nin. Kakashi opens the doors and the council is waiting for him with Danzo in front. You have returned so quickly, you have impressed the council, he states. Mitsuomi places the bag on a small table and opens it, revealing the decaying, severed heads of Orochimaru and Kabuto. The civilian side of the council looked away in horror, and the shinobi remained calm. So you were able to defeat those immortal snakes, Sasuke comments, nearing the table. I was able to, Uchiha-sama. His skills were a sight to behold, but I succeeded in the end and destroyed him at his main base in Atagakure. The one in Sea Country was a false lead, Mitsuomi says. Sasuke glances back at Danzo. It seems our intelligence division needs work, he comments and drops an envelope with a black leaf. Hit I-8. Your payment and your proof, you now belong to the leaf, Sasuke adds. Thank you very much, Uchiha-sama, and I have a question. At the gate I was told this was the Hokage Tower. Are you Konoha's Hokage? Mitsuomi says and Sasuke laughs. No, the title of Hokage was abolished after Tsunade Senju was locked up, Sasuke said. Mitsuomi slowly bows to them. I see. Then excuse me, he says and leaves with a tap of the envelope on his shoulder. Mitsuomi walks through the halls in silence. You're a leaf nin again, albeit for about a day if you get that far, comments, and he smirks. Yeah, and it will serve as the message, Mitsuomi thought, tying it to his belt. Mitsuomi returns to the Hokage monument instead of the Namikaze estate, as someone may have found the broken lock. The former Jinchuriki, now Shinigami, looks over the village with a rueful sigh. Now I see where Ravenholm got its look from, he thought, erecting his barrier and slipping into. Mitsuomi opens his eyes again to a ruined version of him atop a mountain, but a church-like structure stood behind him. Zetsue manifested behind him and took a seat. Tomorrow is D-Day. As for the Rakyukage, have you decided on any others besides Tsunade, Shizune and Hinata, she asks, manifesting a. Mitsuomi focuses on the ruined city below as the moon hangs in the sky and the lightning dances. Perhaps Kakashi, he's under Jinjutsu like Tsunade was. I can break it, but I need him away from the village. If not, I'll see about the other 2 spots, he muses, laying back. Zetsue took a long drag and blew a big puff of smoke. Just don't turn this into your personal harem, she muses, and he glares. Don't give me that look, you love Hinata. You have a crush on Tsunade, and I saw you eyeballing Kiba's mom, she shot. Mitsuomi only harem-san turns on his side as starts laughing. Good night, Goshijin-sama, she muses, and he blushes. Scene break. Hinata slowly opened her eyes and saw the early morning light. It's time, she thought, climbing out of bed. At the same time atop the yonde Mitsuomi stood. It's time, he thought, leaping down. Hinata dresses herself in black cargos with ninja sandals, her fishnet armor and her coat with some pink fingerless gloves. Hinata then fills a storage scroll with some essentials and her fox plushie before slipping out the compound, only telling the guard she was going train. Hinata heads to her secluded training ground at a regular pace, as not to arouse the suspicion of anyone. The training ground was near the Forest of Death, and hardly anyone used it. Mitsuomi crouches in a large tree and scans the area for anyone as it approaches and finds no one. Hinata saw Mitsuomi drop from a tree and quickly made her way to him. "You ready?" he asks and she nods. "Alright, hop on," Mitsuomi adds, kneeling. Hinata climbs on his back and wraps her arms around his neck while he grabs her legs. Mitsuomi leaps into and holds tighter. "It won't be long," he shouts, and she manages a nod, but he stops. Hinata sees they're near the prison holding. "Okay, you go first, I'll sneak from behind," he says, letting her down. Hinata leaps down to the street as Mitsuomi vanishes. "Chiknin Haika, why are you here?" a voice says, as she nears the building. Hinata looks up to see two Anbu with an owl mask and the other with a wolf, but both had symbols for Na. The two Na Anbu drop down in front of in slightly guarded stances. "I ask again, why are you here?" Chiknin Haika, the owl asks. "I am here to free Tsunade-sama," Hinata says, with confidence. Wolf chuckles deeply and reaches for his sword as does Owl. "You and what army?" he sneers at. "Right behind you," Mitsuomi says, and the owl turns an elbow to the face, shattering his mask, nose and several teeth. Wolf maneuvers for a right cross, but Mitsuomi catches his fist and twists, snapping the arm and a back elbow to knock him out. Hinata was amazed by Mitsuomi's taijutsu skill, and it seemed more skilled than Lee. "What taijutsu was that?" she asks. "It's called Muay Thai. It utilizes knees kicks and elbow strikes are very useful," Mitsuomi says, and the pair head towards a two-story bunker. "Now according to the plans I acquired this leads underground to the prison cells," Mitsuomi comments. Hinata reaches for the handle, and with its security, "It will be some time before someone comes," Mitsuomi adds, but Hinata finds the door locked. "We have a problem," Hinata says. Mitsuomi approaches with his sword clicked out of her sheath, stands back he says, and quickly draws across the door and returns to her sheath. At first thought nothing had happened, but her eyes widened as two large gashes appeared and the door fell off the hinges. "Come on, the noise will attract attention," Mitsuomi says, and Hinata follows him inside. The pair encounter no resistance as they reach the stairs to the catacombs below, but Hinata notes the numerous seals restricting chakra. "I won't be able to use chakra," she says. Mitsuomi glances back as they reach a fork. "Don't you worry, you won't have to this way," he said, as they took the right fork. The pair traveled 20 feet and came to a single cell. "She's in here, but she's alone." "Where's Shizune?" Mitsuomi asks. Hinata looked at feet for a moment, but looked up and saw his eyes were covered in darkness. "My father told me that the council used her too. Forced her to attack Tsunade-sama, and when she didn't she says, but Mitsuomi places a hand on her shoulder. "Don't force yourself," Mitsuomi soothed. Mitsuomi turns to the door and with a heavy step in, breaks the door off the hinges with a left straight. Hinata rushes past Mitsuomi as they step in to find Tsunade chained to the wall and in ripped prison garb, also covered in paper seals and blindfolded. "Who's there?" "Speak, you cowards," hisses, her voice raspy and guilt-ridden. "Tsunade-sama, it's me, Hinata," Hinata says, and reaches for the blindfold. Hinata, "Oh no, were you arrested as well, Asos?" Hinata removes the blindfold, and the older woman winces from the light. "No, we're here to save you," Hinata says and points. Tsunade squints to see a young man with steel blue eyes, but one had a black sclera, but he shocks her by breaking the chains with ease. Hinata helped her up. "We need to leave soon," Mitsuomi says. Tsunade slowly gets to feet with Hinata's help. "Who are you and why would you help me?" "I deserve to be here. Because of my weakness I lost two people dear to me," she says. Mitsuomi turns to fully face her. "I'm Mitsuomi Kiryu, and I'm saving you because I want Granny," he states. Tsunade falls silent as Hinata helps her out of the cell with Mitsuomi taking the point. "Just who is Hinata?" she whispers. Hinata glances at Mitsuomi. "It's best he tells you when we're safe," she replies. Mitsuomi focuses his senses as they travel back up and notes the guards have not moved, but a small smirk forms, sensing the three waiting at the entrance. "It seems we will encounter resistance at the entrance in the form of Danzo Shimura and his guards FK Yamanaka and Torin Aburam," Mitsuomi comments. Hinata freeze in their tracks with wide eyes. "Danzo look cocky, I know you think you're strong, but Danzo was the one who hooked me, you can't beat him alone," states. "I agree with Nira, Mitsuomi-kun. I will help you," Hinata says, catching her slip. Mitsuomi glances back with a smirk. "Trust me, this is all part of the plan," he says, and the pair reluctantly follow. The three reach the ground level of the bunker and reach the door as Danzo, FK and stand waiting. "Chknin Haika, you bring disgrace on our village and your family," Danzo remarks. "You're the disgrace, Danzo, you betrayed everything my grandfather, granduncle and sensei gave their lives for," shouts, finding her voice. Danzo shook his head but leveled a glare at Mitsuomi. "I knew it was unwise to trust you, cut, but I'll correct this mistake. No need for Uchiha-sama to sully his hand," he states, removing his hidden arm with 3 locks around it from his clothes. Mitsuomi glances back as his shadow expands and a clone of him appears. "Yami, take them to that place, I'll catch up," he orders. Yami salutes and takes him in his arms. "Please follow me, Homida," he says. "Aki, are you insane?" Shouts. Mitsuomi looks back. "I told you, Bachan, I got this databao," he states, and Yami vanishes within tow. Music. Naruto asked Kakuzu extended. FK and block Danzo as Mitsuomi folds his arms. "Now let's not fall out here. I may have told you a teeny weeny little lie. But come on, you had to expect it. That's why you came here after all," he states, but rubs his chin and snaps fingers. "Or maybe because I told you to come here," he adds. Danzo's visible eye narrows. "FK Torin supports me. I will release my seals. Keep his attention," he states, and both nod. "Torin, let's attack together." "Watch my back," FK states and nods as they charge. Mitsuomi slowly unfolds his arms as leaps up and fires a barrage of kunai, but Mitsuomi backflips several times. FK sunshine behind him as he lands with several quick hand signs. Shintension starts, but Mitsuomi vanishes completely. FK looks frantically around, but Mitsuomi grabs FK in a sleeper hold. Too slow, the Croods. Torin fires a kunai, but at the last moment Mitsuomi shifts FK and it grazes his cheek. He has no chakra. How can he be so fast? Torin thought. FK struggles to move, but Mitsuomi constricts more. Torin attacks him now, FK shouts. Torin pulls off his gloves with his teeth, revealing his hands completely purple as he sprints forward. Mitsuomi chuckles in his throat. "So you're the decoy, huh?" he sneers, snapping FK's neck and tossing him forward. Torin freezes for but a moment and Mitsuomi appears behind with 2 fingers aimed at his back. "Head number 4 by Akurai," he states, and a bolt of lightning erupts from Torin's chest. Mitsuomi skids to a halt and dodges Danzo from behind as an FK hits the ground. "Ho, you would be a great member of the Onmitsukin. If your comrade is being defeated, you should see it as an opportunity. Rather than standing in the way, you should stab the enemy in the back, and if the enemy is so far above your level that you cannot even manage that, then you should let your comrade die," he states, seeing Danzo's Sharingan-filled arm. Danzo pushes back into a flurry of hand signs. "Ton. Shinkyoku," he shouts, firing a barrage of air bullets. Mitsuomi dodges with ease and somersaults to land on the roof of the bunker. "Head number 33 Sankatsui," he shouts, firing a blue blast. Danzo takes the attack head on, but Mitsuomi smirks and turns to Danzo behind him. "Ton. Shinktakyoku," he shouts, firing a huge wave of wind. Mitsuomi slams hard into the ground and Danzo chases after him, but only finds paper in the crater. "Oh, so very close, you know, Danzo, when I was telling you my story, your eyes lit like a kid at Christmas. Too bad that sealed your fate," Mitsuomi says. Danzo turns to have his right arm severed and a gash erupted on his chest. "Danzo, pinning your hopes on Izanagi to stop me are useless," he says, turning to the real Danzo atop the bunker. "It's not useless, I will discern your weakness," Danzo states. However, Mitsuomi grins wide and points. "Why you don't you take a good look at your arm," he shouts. Danzo looks and does a double take, seeing all the eyes were closed. "Impossible, I haven't used that many," he thought. Mitsuomi appears behind Danzo and he turns to see a starred pinwheel in Mitsuomi's left eye. "I told you this was for show, that may be a lie. When you looked me in the eye, you were trapped in my Tsukuyomi, and everything you've done was for my benefit," he states. Danzo glares and reaches for his bandage, and Mitsuomi drives his thumb in the eye. "You gave me the blueprints of Granny's prison. You gave me Orochimaru's real location in Atagakur, and you came here to be my message to the little girl," Mitsuomi states. Danzo staggers back, clutching his face, and pulls a kunai, but Mitsuomi flashes past him and 6 deep gashes open on his chest, back, arms and legs. Danzo draws last his breaths with a wide eye and Mitsuomi laughs out. "Take heart, Danzo, Naruto Uzumaki sent you to your grave," as the Warhawk collapses. Hokage Tower. Meanwhile, Sasuke looks over the village from the Hokage Tower as Sakura opens the door with Kakashi behind her. As Danzo returned from Tsunade's prison to tell that old hag of her execution, Sasuke states. Sakura softly smirks. "I wish I could have seen her face," she sneers and runs her fingers along his shoulder. "Can we kill Hinata next? That demon lover needs to die," she purrs. Kakashi stares but looks to see what appears to be blue lightning bolts in the sky. "What is that, Uchiha-sama?" he states. Sasuke and Sakura see the bolts in the sky. "That looks near our old training ground," she remarks. Sasuke grabs his sword off the wall and beckons for them to follow. "It might be a challenge," he said. The 3 former members of Team 7 made their way to their former training ground. Sakura stifles a shriek and swoons on the verge of vomiting, while Sasuke stands with searing anger and Kakashi wide-eyed. The trio saw Danzo tied to a wooden pole, his arms impaled on spikes with the heads of FK and Torin atop the spikes through his hands. Danzo's chest was bare and a message scrawled in blood, "Is that all you can do? I expected more, I'm hurt, see you in wave." Kakashi reads and turns to Sasuke, "Is that all you can do? I expected more, I'm hurt, what does it mean?" he asks. However, Sasuke pales hearing that phrase, and it has haunted him for 3 years. How could he know that he mutters? Sasuke clenched his fist and turned from the corpses. "It does mean something, that fucking dope said it before he died," he shouts. Sasuke then glares at Kakashi, "Summon the council, then you teammate and team guy go to wave," he orders. Thanks for watching my video, leave a like if you enjoyed my video, and also do consider subscribing to my channel for more awesome content. See you next time, till then sayonara.